Alright, so here we're just using a little bit of a scrap to help you guys figure out how to change your colors on a blanket. So this is using half double crochet, so I've got a base, and now let's just say this is at a point in the chart where you need to change your colors. So the chart will say change after 7 stitches in your cream or your main background. So right now I have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what you do is make sure you have your second color ready. Often when making a blanket, I tend to wrap a little bit in a ball. Helps keep the strings a little more organized when you start getting a lot of letters going. So I'm going to begin my 7th stitch, which again is where the color chart needs to change. So I have, you do your first loop, pull through your main color. And then normally you would pull this through just in a normal stitch, but this is where we actually change it. So I'm gonna grab the beginning, leave a little bit so you can weave it in, but grab your beginning of your second color, put it on your hook, and pull through. So now I have 7, 2, 4, 6, 7 in my main color, and I can get moving with my second. So before we do that, I just flip it over and make sure you tie a little bit of a knot so it stays put. And then you can weave this in at the end when you're all done. But since on a blanket we can't just leave this like loose behind, we want to pull it through as we're going. So what we do is hold it just with the rest of your yarn here, just like this, and continue with your stitches. So, but you want to make sure you're covering that cream yarn there. So when you do your first through here, you will notice that this main yarn right here will be above your hook. That's exactly where it wants to be, and then just continue your stitches like normal. So always make sure that you're carrying that main color through. We'll do like 5 stitches here, 3, 4, and then on your 5th one, which is the last one before your color change, give it a look. You can kind of see that white one coming through. You can pull it just to make sure that there's no extra like big slack in your yarn, and you can always help cover those up later. But so this is where you repeat your color change. So you start your stitch like normal, you go through, pull back your second color, and then this is where you drop your second color and you would pick up your main color. So there you go, you get 5 of your second, and you can continue with this. So depending on when or how many stitches are between each letter or each gap in, you know, that line in the stitch work, you can determine whether you want to leave this ball just to kind of work up this letter, or if you want to pull it across. I'll show you how to do it again as if you're pulling it across. So let's just say there's 1 stitch in between each letter. So when there's 1 stitch, you immediately do your color changing work on this next stitch. So you yarn over, pull through like normal, and then this is where you drop your main color. You pick up that second color. So there you go, you have 1 stitch in between. And then because I'm gonna do just a couple more in this secondary color, I'm going to again pull through my main color here. So 1, 2, 3. So actually I'm going to make the 3rd one where I change, but you can see that there's excess like slack here. So this is what I was talking about before. Just kind of give it a nice little pull. It'll pull it out, and then you can kind of move these stitches when you're done to cover it up. So this is when I'm going to change my color. So I go through, drop my secondary color, give that a little tug, and then pull through my main color. So there you go. You can kind of see how that works. Let me finish this row. And you can kind of, you know, when you're working with multiple colors, they are going to get tangled, so try to keep them all on the same side. And I'll show you how to do the back end of this. So when you're working kind of from the back side and going essentially like left to right on your stitch chart. So I'm going to chain 1 to move up and turn it over. All right, so when we're working the back, we have to keep our yarn strings in front of us instead of behind. So here, this is the stitch where we need to change colors. So pull through like normal, then make sure you bring that main color in front of you instead of behind, then pick up your second, wrap and pull through. One thing to note is the side you keep your yarn on will help with eliminating the like cross work of the colors on the back. So when we're moving through the back, try to keep your changing color, the one that you're dropping, on the left side. This will help when with kind of the look of it. So pull through that second color, and then here we have your first. Make sure you keep it kind of on the back, and we want to carry this through as we're going. So 3 stitches, and remember on that third one where we want to change the color, we're going to do the beginning of the stitch normal, then we're going to drop that second color, pick up your main color, and finish the stitch off there. So again, we're going to carry this through, so keeping it on kind of the left of everything will help eliminate this. So we yarn over, pull through, and again, this is, since it was 1 stitch, we're just going to immediately change the colorway. So grab your secondary color, pull that through, and now we have 5 stitches of the secondary color. And remember, keep this on front and the front, and we're going to do your 5 stitches. And on the 5th one, I'm going to change this up. So yarn over, pull through that secondary color, give that main color a little bit of a tug, but not like that, because that was too much. You can kind of see how it pulled it a little bit. You don't want that. You don't want it to bunch. So drop your secondary color, pick up that main one, and yarn over here. And then when you do your next stitch, make sure that this secondary color, because we're not continuing on or carrying this through, we want to kind of leave it here. So make sure that it's nice and behind everything, and then just continue with your normal main color to finish out that row. So once you finish that, then you can move up to the next row. But I want to show you guys how to cover up some stitches if they come through, and you can see that color behind as you're pulling it through. So for example, right here, we don't really want to see this white, so what you can do, oftentimes a smaller hook works a lot better than this, but this is what I have handy. So stick it, try to get behind the front of this, give it a little bit of a tug, and it'll kind of hide it. For this one, this is where we crossed over. You can pull up the white around it to kind of hide it. You can also take a string when you're all done with the blanket, kind of weave it over this so you don't see it as much. Another thing that I often do and did with this blanket was create a small ball of yarn in each secondary color for each letter, and that way you don't have to carry it across. So all you're doing is carrying the main color through and not the individual letters, so you don't have that crossover, that color. It's a lot of balls to keep track of and keep straight, so you're gonna have to stop a lot, kind of untangle, but it's doable, and I think it ends up with a better result. So you don't have a lot of this crossover down the middle. Again, your back is going to be a little messy, just given you know, kind of the way that this color works, but I think overall, like, once you have the whole thing done, it really doesn't isn't very noticeable, and it is the back, so you know, it's all good. But there you go, enjoy, and I hope this really helped figure out how to do your color work. But yeah. All right, so one more thing that I wanted to show is how to carry across a color when there's a gap in the stitches for your work. So let's just say that this is gonna be an E. So we went up 2 rows, and then these 3 stitches here are needing to be white, but you left off with this stitch here. So, you know, one way is you can cut this, but you have a lot more to weave in then. So I want to show you guys how to carry this across the color and pull up here, carry it across here and pull up here like the E would be, without having to like weave in extra strings, because trust me, there's a lot when we do color work. So I'm just gonna quickly move up a stitch to show you guys how to do that. So we have 3 stitches in the cream, but really we have 6. So we need to get to here before we change out to that secondary color. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So you have 3 before you hit it. 1, 2, and 3. And then this is where we essentially need to pick up this string and carry it across 3 stitches before we're actually like using it to crochet. So we're gonna hold it up kind of like we did when we normally were carrying the main color across. We're not gonna crochet with it, we just want to gather it. So continue doing your stitches like normal, but as you go through, notice how we kind of grab this. It's inside or above the hook. It's in that stitch now. And of course I messed that up. All right, sorry. So let me finish my 3rd stitch. There we go. And then this is when we're gonna grab it. So make sure you finish your stitch. Grab it so that on this 4th stitch, we can grab that secondary color in between, so it's within the stitch. But again, we're not changing it. Ignore that piece of yarn. And we're carrying it across. So there's not a lot of slack here, which is good. It kind of just looks like it's involved in that stitch, and you can't even notice that we're pulling it up now. So continue for 2 more. 1, 2, and then on this one, this is actually the one where we're going to change the color. So pull through, but don't complete with that main color, and then pick up this color that we've been pulling along here for the last 2 stitches. So this is when we would change it, and then we're pulling that main color again through, so grab it and hold it up on the back so that it's within this next stitch, and we're carrying it across, and then here we go. So you can kind of see how that works pretty easily. Right now we're going to change back to the white, so before we finish that 2nd stitch, there we go. We're going to do 1 of the main. I'm actually just going to, and that's how it works there.